Okay, so the first thing that we need to do before we can actually schedule our exam is we need to make what's called an IACRA account. IACRA stands for the Integrated Airman Certification and Rating Application, and the FAA wants you to make an account prior to scheduling your actual exam. So the way that you get to it, you can Google IACRA or you can use this link here, and it brings you right to the IACRA website. Now, once you get to the IACRA website, it's going to look something like this, almost exactly like this. Right now, I'm using a training version of the IACRA website, but the actual version will look very similar to this. So again, this is just a training site. But once you get to the website, all you have to do is click on register. Here, all we have to do is click applicant. None of these other items are going to be applicable to you as a remote pilot right now, so you can just leave these blank. We're going to scroll down, agree to the terms of service, and continue. Now from here, this area right here that asks for your airman certificate number, obviously you're not certificated yet, so you can leave this blank. Then all we have to do is fill out our basic demographic information, your name, date of birth, email address, things like that. Create security questions, create a username and password, and then click on register. Now once you're registered, all you have to do is go back to the login page, use the username and password and the login information that you just made, and click login. For training purposes, I'm using a fake username and password, but obviously you would use whatever username and password that you just set up when you registered to log in. So once you log in, all we have to do is accept the terms of service again. And from here, this is actually all you need to do for the IACRA portion right now. We are going to come back to this after you take your exam to be able to actually fill out an application, because you don't just automatically get your certificate once you pass the exam. You have to come back into IACRA and start an application and actually apply for your certificate. But we'll do all that after you actually take the exam. For now, all we really care about is this FTN, this flight tracking number. You're going to need this when you actually schedule your exam. All right, so now that we have our IACRA account all set up, we have our FAA tracking number, our FTN number, we have that handy. Now we can actually go find an FAA approved testing center and schedule our exam with them. So there's really only one place you can do this, with a company called PSI. You can either Google PSI or use this link here. This will bring you to the PSI website. This is where you find FAA approved testing centers. Again, they need to be FAA approved. PSI is pretty much the only one that you can find. So go to the PSI website, click on find a test center. So now we're going to find one that's as close to us as you want. For example, I'll use a Boston area code here. Put in your postal code and your country, how far of a distance that you're willing to go. And then last thing here is the exam. So again, this is a list of pretty much every FAA written test that's available. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And again, we're looking for unmanned aircraft general small. So this is the UAG exam. So make sure you have that selected. That way it'll only show us testing centers that will be able to administer this exam. So just click search, and it'll show you a list of all the different places that you can actually go and take your exam. So here we can see a few colleges, a few flight schools. Pick whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter. It's really up to you and your personal preference on where you want to go. All right, so now that we know where you want to take your exam, you can't actually schedule an exam from that site specifically. You just have to go back to the PSI homepage here, and first we need to create an account. So this is pretty straightforward. You're going to create your account. You're going to use your FTN number that we pulled from my IACRA account, your first name, your last name. PSI unfortunately doesn't have a training website like the IACRA one, so I can't make it past this point because it actually checks the FAA database. So put in your FTN, your first name, your last name, click continue. It'll ask you some more information, your email address, your address, things like that, and just go through those step by step and create your account. Now once you log in, you're going to navigate to this select tab, and this is going to show us all the available FAA written exams that you can take. Again, ours is going to be all the way down at the bottom. We're looking at the Unmanned Aircraft General Small UAG. So we want to make sure we click the right one. We're going to press select. It's going to ask you to confirm a few times to make sure that you are selecting the actual exam that you want here. Again, just make sure that we're on the small UAG. Now in this section, it's just going to ask you to confirm that the number of exam attempts that they have in their systems is correct. So if this is your first time taking the exam, it says right there that the current attempt is included in the value. So if it's your first time, it should be 1. Next here is the authorization category. Some exams that require you to have sign-offs or authorizations prior to taking the exam. This one does not. So we're just going to click on none, click continue. Now it's going to ask you if you require any kind of disability accommodations. If you do, you can click I need an accommodation and then look at the examples that they have for you and select the one that's appropriate. If not, you can just go to no accommodation needed and press continue. Again, it's just going to confirm no accommodation needed. Now this next pop-up is going to give you a ton of information. Arriving at the testing facility at least 15 minutes prior, making sure you're not 30 minutes late, all the lab materials that you can bring in, all the things that you cannot. Again, we already covered this in the course. So now we're going to find the testing center that we want, just like we found earlier. Put in your country, your zip code, select a distance that you're willing to travel, and this time we're actually going to submit a date range as well. So it gives you maximum of 14 days of a range that you can select. Press search, and it'll show you different locations, times, and dates that are available for this exam. All you have to do is pick one that works for you, click on it. Then we're going to scroll down to the bottom, click on schedule. It's going to give you one more confirmation to schedule. I'm not obviously going to click on this here because this is actually scheduled the exam for myself, which I obviously don't need. But this is what you do. You click on schedule, and then from there you should receive a confirmation email and you'll be good to go. As a reminder, the FAA exam must be done at an FAA approved testing center and in person. We'll go over how to schedule that in a second. You can also not bring your cell phone, a smart device, or any kind of cheat sheet inside the exam with you. It consists of 60 multiple choice questions, each one with 3 possible answers. You need a minimum of a 70% in order to pass, and as the time of this recording, it's about $175 to take your exam. When you're actually in the room taking the exam, it is done on a computer. You can skip and mark questions and go back to any ones that you do not know at the time and go back later. You also receive a testing supplement book that has all the different charts and figures that different questions on the exam will refer to. One of the best tips I can give you when you're actually sitting down taking the exam is to take your time. You have a full 2 hours to answer 60 questions. So you can utilize as much of that time as you want to. So take your time. You can also skip questions if you're not sure, and you can go back to that question later. So don't waste all your time on one question if you feel stuck. You can always skip it, go back later. The testing supplement they provide you will have legends on there. So like I mentioned earlier on in the course, you do not need to memorize every single piece of information, but you should familiarize yourself with the legend, understand what's on it, and understand where to find it. You can download the PDF and familiarize yourself with it before you take the exam. Another good tip is to choose the most correct answer out of the 3 possible answers that they give you for each question. I know that sounds like common sense, but some of them can be a little tricky. Sometimes there might be 2 answers that are somewhat correct or might seem correct, but there should be one that is what is the most correct. Also, just like many FAA exams, they notoriously contain some outdated information, so keep that in mind. Also, if you're using calculations, choose the closest answer to whatever you come up with. You can also use your cheat sheet to study on the go or in the car. Just make sure you don't bring it in with you to the exam. You can also bring a magnifying glass. If you struggle with small text, sometimes a magnifying glass will help you. Many testing centers provide them for you, but if it's something that you're really concerned about, you can bring a magnifying glass into the exam with you. In the very unlikely event that you fail the exam, which you shouldn't if you paid attention during this course and utilized the practice exams, it's not the end of the world. They actually will tell you which specific subjects that you scored incorrectly on, and you can use that to study and come back to retest in 14 days. That being said, the practice exams are a testing tool and not a study tool. If you continue to take the same exams over and over again until you start getting 90-95%, you are just memorizing the answers. You're not really understanding the material. So again, these practice exams are a testing tool, but not a studying tool. Memorizing answers to certain questions aren't going to help you on the real world at all. You should also beware of free practice exams online. There are a ton out there. There are a ton of YouTube videos out there and free exams that you can go to if you search for them. Many of them contain a lot of inaccurate or outdated information, so beware. Well, congratulations. At this point, you have taken and passed your FAA Part 107 exam. You are not a certificated remote pilot yet. First, you need to apply and be approved by the FAA. To do so, you need to go online through the FAA back into your IACRA account. Once you apply and are approved, you'll get a temporary airman certificate in about 1 week. Your permanent certificate will arrive in about 1 to 2 months. Okay, so to apply, all we need to do is go back into IACRA, log in with your login information, accept the terms of service as an applicant. Again, I'm using the FAA testing site for IACRA right here, but yours should look very similar to this. And what we're going to do is start a new application. First question is the type of application. So we are applying for a pilot certificate, so you can click on pilot. Now it's going to give us a few options here. Pilot certifications, private pilot, recreational pilot, all these different options for us. Again, we are going to be going for our remote pilot. So you're going to click on remote pilot. Now again, this is the testing site, so all this information on here is fake. So obviously right here it says that I have a private pilot certificate issued in 1972. Again, this is fake information, so on yours it should be blank. You can leave it blank. Next, we're just going to hit Start Application. Now this first set of information, it's all just basic personal information, your name, your city of birth, hair color, eye color, all those different things, your email address. So just fill this stuff out. It should be pretty straightforward for you. Putting your residential address and your mailing address if you have a special one, and then you can hit Save, and then we're going to move on to supplementary data. So again, if you remember from regulations in the course, you need to be able to read, speak, and write and understand the English language. So hopefully you can click yes on this question. The drug conviction, hopefully we can hit no here. However, if you do have a drug conviction, you do have to click yes and then add some comments in here. But if you don't, you can click no, save, and then we're going to move on to basis of issuance. Now under basis of issuance, we're going to see a few different options here. For us, it's going to be the completion of a knowledge test. This is the knowledge test that you went and took at the FAA testing site and that you passed. This is going to be our basis of issuance. It does say here completion of training course. Yes, you've completed this training course, but the Drone Ace Academy is not an FAA training course. There are no FAA training courses, especially for remote pilot certificates. So you're going to leave that one blank. Next is going to ask you for your identification. So you can select your driver's license or your passport, put in the identification number, expiration date, your state, all those things. Next on here is our knowledge test exam ID. So when you were at the testing center and you took and passed your exam, you should have received a knowledge test exam report. So that should be the piece of paper that they handed you. Hopefully you didn't lose it. And on there, there's going to be a test exam ID. So what you're going to do is you're going to put that number in here and search for it. And hopefully if everything went well and you typed it in correctly, you should see your actual test that you took. You should see if you passed, you failed, and what your score was. So, and if that's accurate, you can hit Associate Test, and it should add it in there for you. So you should be able to see your exam ID, your code, the expiration date, your exam date, all that information in your score, and it should be added in like that. So once you have that in here, we can hit Save, and then we're going to review and submit. It's going to have you a few other questions here. One, have you ever been denied a remote pilot certificate? You should be pressing no for this one. Even if you failed the exam in the past and this was your second or third attempt, you're still going to press no unless you've applied for it already like this and you've been denied. Otherwise, you're going to hit no. And then the last question here is your medical condition. So also, if you remember from the course, you need to be in a medically okay condition to be able to operate an aircraft. So you should be pressing no for here. Then, once you've selected no for both of those two items, it gives you a couple different things that we need to read. So first, we need to read and view the pilot's Bill of Rights. So you click on that, read through it. Once you're done with that, you also need to view and read the Privacy Act as well. So select that. Once we have both of those open and read, it gives you the option to click on Review Application. So you can click Review Application. Lastly, we're going to sign the pilot's Bill of Rights acknowledgement, acknowledging that you read it. And then the very last thing we have to do is sign and submit the application. And from there, you're all done. So again, your temporary airman certificate should arrive in about 1 week, and that's going to be on your actual IACRA account. You'll be able to view it and download it. Your permanent certificate should arrive by mail. A physical card by mail should arrive in about 1 to 2 months. But again, once you have that temporary airman certificate, that's when you're going to be officially be able to exercise your privileges as a remote pilot. Now that you have your certificate, it's important to understand how you remain up to date. In aviation, we call this currency, which is how we remain up to date and current with our certificates. If you remember from regulations, your FAA certificate does not expire, but you must remain current in order to exercise the privileges as an airman. This must be completed every 24 calendar months, not 2 years. This is every 24 calendar months. The training is free and it's available online on the FAA website at faasafety.gov. You must keep a copy of your current certificate along with your certificate when you're operating. So you should always have your certificate and a copy of your currency to prove that you are still current. Another piece of information is logbooks are not required for drone pilots, but they are highly recommended. It's important for you not just for your professional development, but just to cover yourself, to keep track of what type of aircraft you're flying, where you're flying, and how many hours you have. Now for some quick reminders and closing remarks. Number one, remember to be an advocate for the industry. There's a lot of good that drones are doing out in the world, so make sure you're an advocate for that. Stay informed. You want to make sure that you're staying up to date with the most recent regulations, not just to protect yourself, but to make sure that you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. Be a mentor to others. Help other people that are interested in coming into this industry. Of course, be a safe, professional UAS pilot. Reason for that, not just do good for yourself professionally, but you also represent all of us. When you start flying a drone, you represent all of us that are operating in this industry. So remember that. And lastly, fly safe.